All right. Well, it's day 2 of our 30-day series, and I have a really fun topic that I want to talk about today. It's something I've touched on really briefly. One second, I just want to check the time here. Something I've touched on really briefly in my Instagram short form content, and that is the power of our tongues. And as a Christian, I call it the power of my tongue based off of what the Bible says. For other people, because this works not just for Christians. This is something that applies to everyone. I believe when God creates the world, he sets laws in place, and those laws apply whether you're a Christian or not. And a really quick, short example of this would be like reaping what you sow. A non-Christian might call that karma, right? You reap what you sow, and that's a biblical law. And so when you sow righteousness, or you sow good things, that's what you're going to reap. When you reap kindness, etc. And I think that applies to almost everything we do. Everything. And for non-Christians, they would say, oh, when you do something wrong, the karma is going to come back on you. You're going to get that. That's going to happen to you, right? Or karma hits kind of thing. So that's the same law. It's a biblical law. It's a godly law. And it applies to non-Christians as well. And I think that's the power of the tongue is like that too, because it applies not just to Christians, but non-Christians. And actually, let me just read that really quick. It's in Proverbs 18:21. Right now I'm going through the Bible. I'm reading Proverbs and the Psalms every morning, which is really fun. Highly recommend it. A mentor of mine suggested I do that. So Proverbs 18:21. Let's take a look at this here. It says, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof." And if you want to know the context behind this verse, you can go and read in Proverbs chapter 18, verse 21. Get the whole context for the verse. It's pretty simple. Most of it is just like Proverbs, different little snippets of Proverbs all the way through. There's not really any main topic behind that one verse there. So you can take that verse and it's a proverb. So you can apply it as it's written right there, and you don't have to look into the context behind it because it is contained in itself, if that makes sense. It's a really cool topic. So if you're non-Christian, you might call it the law of attraction. You might call it manifestation. You might call it crazy. A lot of people think it is crazy, Christians and non-Christians. But I want to go into the topic a little bit. When you consistently talk about something, let's say, for example, you buy a new car, buy a Jeep. I did this with cars recently. You buy a Jeep. Suddenly, every vehicle you see on the road is a Jeep. And it's not that now there's more Jeeps on the road. It's not that everyone else changed because you bought a Jeep. Not at all. It's just the fact that your mind is now tagging Jeeps as important to you because you just bought one, you're proud of it, you're interested in Jeeps, you've been looking at different vehicles and you fixed your eyes on one. Your subconscious is now tagging Jeeps wherever you look. You saw them all before, you just didn't realize it. And it's just a little way in how our subconscious mind works, a little example. And I think really what that verse gets into, that death and life are in the power of the tongue, we read that in a very shallow way, which is, yes, death and life are in the power of tongue, as in I can say negative things about somebody. I can say, oh, you suck at this, you're horrible at this, you're a terrible copywriter, you're a terrible speaker, etc. And that would be speaking death to somebody, and that is what it is. Or I can speak life to somebody. I can encourage them. You're an amazing speaker. You're doing so good at this. You work so hard. Now that would be life. But people usually tend to leave it there and say, well, that's all that it is. And that's where I would disagree, and I would go deeper into it, which is things change based on what we believe and what we speak. So if you believe that Jeeps are the coolest vehicles on the road, you're going to see lots of Jeeps. If you believe Porsches are, that's me, you're going to see lots of Porsches. And that doesn't mean you're some kind of crazy person for only seeing Jeeps or only seeing Porsches. It just means you've fixed your subconscious on something and now that's appearing in reality. And there's a lot of studies that go into this. I'm looking into it more, but it's very interesting what the power of our subconscious mind actually, what kind of power it actually holds. Because when you think about something, if you imagine something, it's almost as good as being real, if that makes sense. Hypnotists say this, in fact. This is something with hypnotism and mentalism that they talk about a lot. That is, people will say, oh, well, it's fake. They didn't actually go into trance. They didn't actually do all this stuff. They just imagined it or whatever. And it's like, well, but that's kind of the point. if you, whatever you imagine, and you actually believe that it happened, even if it was just in your head, what's difference for you is it if it happened in your head or if it happened in reality? It's the same thing. At the end of the day, the same happenstance occurred. You imagined it happening or it actually happened. Either way, at the end of the day, you come to the same conclusion. And reality can be molded by what you think and say. For instance, if I spoke life to somebody, if I encouraged them, now reality changes because now they are encouraged by me. If I speak death to them, their reality changes again. Now they're discouraged by me. And that is reality changing because of something that I say. So if it can change that, can it change other things? And I would say yes, which is one of my favorite things from Brian Tracy. I touched on this before. Something I try to do every day is before I go to bed, I say, something wonderful is going to happen to me tomorrow. And when I wake up in the morning, I say, something wonderful is going to happen to me today. And I really focus on the idea that something wonderful is going to happen. I don't know what it is, but at the end of the day, when I say that before I go to bed, I think about what happened over the day. And what does it do? My brain automatically, subconsciously, takes all of the wonderful things that happened during the day, shows them to me, and I don't think about all the negative things that happened during the day. But it shows me all the wonderful things. So it works for me every single day. It works. I could have a really bad day and still see the wonderful things that happen because wonderful things are always happening. And so this is a very good example, a good habit to get into. In fact, you should say it right now. Something wonderful is going to happen to me today or tomorrow. Say that with me, right? Something wonderful is going to happen to me. And you're going to notice an immediate change. Like this evening, whenever you're watching this video, tomorrow, whenever you think about it, you're going to notice that you actually notice those wonderful things happening. And it's not just all, it might sound flippant and this is just a dumb idea, who cares, right? But if you wake up and you feel depressed, you're like, oh man, today's gonna suck, oh, it's Monday, I don't wanna go to work, etc. That is the case, and it is going to happen. And you are going to feel like the day was horrible, and you're gonna get home and you're gonna be tired, you're not gonna wanna work out, you're gonna just fall into bed, exhausted, not feeling good about the day whatsoever, only remembering the negative things. And we all do this. We're gonna be doing it anyway. We're either gonna be saying positive things about our lives and our days, or we're gonna be saying negative things. It's just the case, whether you practice it or not, whether you make it a habit or not. And for me, I just like to make it a habit to start every day. Obviously, you start at first with your relationship with God, you get into prayer, you read the Bible, and also start it with positive thinking about the day, because then your day will be positive, even if negative things happen throughout the day, which they always do. And I don't want to repeat myself. I'm good at doing that, so I want to move on from that topic. And I had a train of thought, and it just disappeared, which is really too bad. It's kind of nice to have a script sometimes, honestly. It's a little harder to do this with no script because you get an idea, you finish your thought, and then the idea's gone, which is really annoying. But anyway, so get into the habit of speaking those positive things. Oh, that's what I was going to talk about. Awesome. It's back. Thank goodness. When you say you can't do something, and I see this with so many people I know. Oh, I can't lose weight. I can't work out. I can't get up in the morning and go to work. My job is terrible. I can't make more money. I can't do better at this. I'm a terrible speaker. I'm scared of speaking in public. I'm scared of making new friends. I'm scared of going to events. I'm scared of trying new things. You say all of those things, and all of those things are true. Words can be incredible, either blessings or curses in your life. Even I have friends who, well, there's a couple. I've a friend who is rather sickly and speaks about how sickly they are and talks about how they can't do anything. They can't get out of bed. They are constantly sickly. They are constantly in pain. They can't work out. They can't exercise. They can't go for a walk outside because they're in pain. And they are in pain. I don't doubt it. But then I have another friend who arguably is in a worse condition. In fact, is physically disabled and yet speaks those blessings, those positive words over what he does. It's hard for me to work out, but I'm going to go do it anyway, and I'm going to make it happen. It's hard for me to feel excited about the day because every day really sucks, but I'm going to do it anyway. And you speak those positive things, and he has an awesome, fulfilling life because he focuses on the good things, and the good things become his life. So I don't want to get in too much. I don't want to go into the causation versus correlation part of this. But You can argue that a positive person is going to speak positive things, and you can argue that people who speak positive things become positive people, and it goes a little bit both ways. But never use words like I can't, or I wouldn't be able to, or this is in the way of me doing something that you want to do. That might be the case. Right now, right now I'm stuck in bed. So I'm going to do what I can to focus on my next step, which is going to be getting out of bed. So I can't get out of bed right now. I'm not able to get out of bed right now, but because I'm feeling sick, but I can focus on doing something else. Maybe I can do some writing, or I can work on some other kind of something productive, and I can get myself excited about that, and I can feel fulfilled doing something like that. And that's when I am able to get out of bed. I'm not now going to have to start encouraging myself at that point, because you're always going to have hard things come up. And it's very interesting. I actually got into learning more about speaking truth and speaking life over ourselves. I have a younger brother who has epilepsy. He's had it since he was like 3. Medication, nothing worked for him. So it's all on faith and our belief in God right now, which is great. That's where it should be anyway. That it should be based on your belief in God. And so we started, as a family, we started reading the Bible, looking into how our words affect things, how blessings were so incredibly important that people were willing to kill over the blessing of some important person in their life, like the power that words have. And when you realize how powerful they are, you can really start using them to your benefit. And so for years, we've been speaking life over my brother, which is like, he's going to be healed. He's going to be able to run and do things normally. He's going to be able to be a normal human. And this is, by the way, and this is where it gets really crazy. This is not just Christians that I've heard this from. This is non-Christians. Probably one of the more famous examples of this would be Napoleon Hill. In explaining how his son, who had a hearing impairment, how they believed and spoke words over him positive words over him until he was able to hear again. And the fact that even though they weren't Christians, the law still applies, right? And I have friends who say they're never going to make more money than they do right now, and they don't have the skill. They can't do this. They can't study. They don't have the time. And so they're stuck where they're at. Whereas my other friends who are saying, well, I'm busy right now. I don't have extra time right now, but I'm going to find a way anyway. And look at this. I'm learning on the job. I'm learning this. I'm able to use this somewhere else. I'm applying stuff to my life, and I'm waking up every morning ready to attack the day with purpose and focus. The difference in lives is incredible. So again, that was quite the ramble. Hopefully I stayed more on topic. But I really wanted to just hammer home that your words have massive impact. And when you're saying negative things about yourself and your life, those negative things will come to pass. When you're saying positive things about your life and yourself, those positive things will also come to pass. It works both ways. You can say it's not true, you can say it's crazy, but I think every successful person, you can talk to any successful person, truly successful, and ask them the same question. Is it true that your words have power over your physical life? And they're all going to say the same thing. And I've heard this from lots of successful people. Elon Musk, thinking again, but I've heard this from a lot of successful people. People like Elon Musk, people like Steve Jobs, people like Napoleon Hill, people like Roosevelt, Theodore, and then maybe more relatable for the younger generation, people like TJR, people, famous media influencers like KSI, etc., Mr. Beast. All of these people have talked about the massive effect this has had on their lives and how amazing, how the power of words is. And I don't know if any of these people are Christians, but I know that the Bible also talks about how powerful our words are, and that if the Bible talks about how powerful our words are, then that's enough for me. Like that, it is clear that it is extremely powerful. So watch out what you're saying. Be very careful what you say. Don't say negative things about yourself or anyone else. Work on saying positive things, life-giving things, and work on saying every single day, something wonderful is going to happen to me today. And then see things that happen. And let me know, by the way, put in the comments, drop a follow if this kind of content interests you. Let me know what wonderful things start happening when you start applying this topic. That's all I wanted to say. Have a good evening.